Meanwhile, to an extraordinary performance from Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk to show you what a clown show she's running, using slogans to disguise it. She declared that tourists to Queensland this summer will first need to get a PCR test and a certificate to say they weren't infectious. And all this would cost them $150, which turns out really to be a $150 tax to go visit Queensland, which is dreadful for tourism. But Palaszczuk was very firm about this, although rather shaky on the detail.
Well, they have to go and get a test. People are doing that all the time. Even if people are travelling overseas, they go and get a test.
Do they have to pay for that test?
Yes, is my understanding, unless they go to they have to ring, like they might be able to go to one of their state health centres in New South Wales or Victoria and produce that test. Anyway, It's great news. It's wonderful that everyone's come out here today.
Premier, how long are the travellers going to be expected to pay the $150 for a PCR test?
Yeah, thanks. Until we get to that 90% double dose, and our figures are really encouraging. Not just Queensland. If you have a look through the other jurisdictions, you'll find that it's pretty much the same.
Isn't that going to make it very expensive for people trying to celebrate Christmas with their families over Christmas?
Look, we make no apologies for keeping Queenslanders safe when all we're trying to do is keep Queenslanders safe.
Premier, isn't Queensland effectively closed for Christmas with a $150 toll on the border?
Well, Greg Hunt can quite easily make it a Medicare rebate. He can do that with the stroke of a pen.
I mean, this is weird. Why would you want a $150 certificate when you can automatically get a text for a free test on your phone? Why? Federal Health Minister Greg Hunt, he was scathing.
What does it really mean? The situation that's been in place for 18 months, unchanged at our end. There was a little bit of a waiver from Queensland. They're back in the tent. And what matters is that there's certainty for families. Our position has been completely consistent, that we've always shared half of the costs of all of the state and territory testing. We're continuing to do that, and I'm glad that they're not taking it away.
Joining me is Sky News Queensland Editor Peter Gleeson. Peter Gleeson, thanks for your time. Apart from the issue itself, putting a $150 tax essentially on tourists to Queensland when the tourism industry has been pancaked for the best part of 2 years, what on earth was Palaszczuk trying to achieve here?
Well, you know, the old saying, Queensland beautiful one day, confused the next, Andrew. Look, this was just another cheap shot at the feds. I mean, they are fighting a front for Anthony Albanese right now. Let's face it, Albo needs all the help he can get. They should have just acknowledged that they caused confusion and apologised and said, look, we got this wrong. Instead, they had thousands of people, thousands, Andrew, who would have cancelled their holiday plans because they thought they were up for hundreds of dollars extra on these COVID tests. I'll tell you what happened here. Palaszczuk lied in saying that they had the same PCR requirement as the other states. They refused for weeks to clarify whether they needed a private lab certificate rather than a text message of the negative test. Since then, she's tried to turn it on the feds. She's had a crack at Hunt, she's had a crack at Morrison, and her government has created all the confusion. She doesn't front up for the press conference today. Instead, she sends out her attack dog, Miles. Well, he's doing Anthony Albanese's bidding because, of course, they're both from the left faction and they both face big challenges in Queensland at the upcoming federal election. Now, Greg Hunt, he's demanded an apology. He hasn't received one as yet, Andrew, but I think he deserves one because, and I think the good folk of Queensland and the good folk who are intending to come to Queensland over summer deserve an apology because the confusion was palpable. No one had a clue what was going on.
Yeah, but you say, you know, she should have just made a frank acknowledgement of error, which would have helped the tourism industry, cleaned things up. Instead, she kept rabbiting on after she got called out and, you know, came to this, oh, well, yeah, we can just have a text, you know, automatic text, free test and all that. And actually seemed to claim not only that she was right, but that she'd beaten the wicked Morrison government, which had been picking on Queensland. Have a listen to this nonsense.
I don't think this has helped anyone. I acknowledge that the costs were high for families, but in Queensland, if you're going to other states, the tests were free, and it's great now that the Commonwealth has recognised that it can be free for people coming into Queensland. Now, also, too, can I just say this? These PCR tests are not just required for Queensland, they are required for other jurisdictions, but Queensland was singled out.
again, Peter, explain what the Premier was doing there.
Well, what she was trying to do was once again blame Canberra. I mean, it'll be a tragedy if Anthony Albanese becomes Prime Minister because their entire political business model goes out the door. They can't blame anyone else other than themselves. Look, a rapid antigen test costs $8. Now, medical experts are saying if you have 2 rapid antigen tests within 3 days, that is just as effective as a PCR. Look, it was a charade, Andrew. Once again, an example where this government, totally incompetent when it comes to some of the decisions around COVID. They've been caught out again. And instead of just putting their hand up and saying, hey, listen, we got that one wrong, like, say, for example, a Peter Beattie would have done, he would have just said, yep, mea culpa, we got that one wrong, but we're going to make sure that you're able to get over the border and it's not going to cost you a fortune to get here. Instead, they flip-flopped and, they've been exposed for their incompetency.
Now, thanks for reminding us of Peter Beattie. He was a master of being able to apologise and actually win votes for honesty. Just quickly, in one sentence, to do what Anastasia Palaszczuk couldn't do and tell us what tourists to Queensland now need to do to get in.
They need to ensure they've got the text message that says that they've got a negative test. They need to ensure that they're double vaxxed and they'll be allowed over the border. After December 17, that's the kicker.
How hard was that, for goodness sake? Peter Gleeson, thank you so much for your time.